Brits prepared to pay £22 on average for PCR test before international travel. As the prospect of international travel nears, many countries are requiring travelers to submit a negative PCR test result on arrival. 33% of British travelers are not prepared to pay for a PCR test before traveling internationally. 40% of British travelers will not pay for their family to have a PCR test. A new study reveals that Brits are willing to pay £22 per person on average for a PCR test COVID test, before embarking on international travel. However, 33% said they would not be prepared to pay for a PCR test either at home or at the airport before traveling internationally. As the prospect of international travel nears, many countries are requiring travelers to submit a negative PCR test result on arrival, taken within a certain time frame before travel. UK travelers are not permitted to use NHS tests for travel, except for freight drivers in certain circumstances. Private tests can cost £120 on the high street or over £200 at some clinics. Only 4% of those surveyed would be prepared to pay £75 or more for a PCR test, if it meant they could travel internationally, which is still considerably lower than the private PCR tests currently being offered to enable travel. After almost 12 months together under lockdown restrictions, families should be looking forward to escaping to warmer climes and reunite with loved ones on holiday. However, 40% say they would not be willing to pay for their family to have a PCR test to be able to travel. It's good news that the majority of travelers will be willing to take a COVID PCR test in order to go on holiday. That said, the current costs of PCR testing makes this option unviable for most travelers based on what they are prepared to spend on testing. Whilst vaccination passports and PCRs are expected to be the two key requirements for travel to restart, there is still a high degree of uncertainty which changes the risk profile for travel. The data shows that 23% are still prepared to travel without adequate medical cover, which is worrying given that a similar proportion of those asked, 22%, said they have been caught out in fees when traveling without insurance. Travelers urged to check what the latest FCDO and destination entry requirements are before going away and, in addition to a PCR test or vaccine, ensure they have relevant and adequate travel insurance cover for the country they are traveling to.